All right, Dave, picture this. You're a cop on the beat, which is surprising because you're a white guy and all your life you've been told you have no rhythm. That's just the kind of cop you are. Unconventional, like a wedding with no cake, or a straight man who just happens to wear women's underwear.
You're painting quite the picture, Max.
And when you're cruising through the streets of Los Angeles, ready to dispense justice, the only part of you not wearing lace black panties is your gun. You want to know why?
Why?
Because it's naked. We're talking about the Naked Gun. Let's go to the movies.
Welcome to Picture This, the podcast where we examine the weekly box office and ask what do movie-going trends say about American culture, about our loves, our hates, our curiosities, and sometimes about things we didn't even know about ourselves.
Movie-going is an American passion, but it's hit uncertain times. So mostly, Dave and I are here to give you all the reasons to go see a movie in theaters the way that they were meant to be seen. My name is Max. I'm a screenwriter and son of an independent movie theater owner.
I'm Dave. Over the last 10 years, I've worked for a filmmaker, an agent, and a movie studio in movie marketing.
Today's episode, we're going to be diving into the seedy world of Los Angeles, circa 2024. Corruption, politics, magical snowman, all the random irreverence brought to you by the enduring comedy of The Naked Gun. But first, let's talk the state of the biz.
State of the biz. Big surprise, guys. Fantastic Four, Max. After a dope opening weekend that we said was very similar to Superman, took a big nosedive.
Yeah, not doing as hot. You know, there was chatter, at least among you and me, but I think business-wide, about how they were going to compare, what was going to do better. And I think the facts are in, right?
Yeah, I think the after the first weekend where it did over $100 million, fairly close to what Superman did, Fantastic Four did a 66% drop. You know, a normal drop is anywhere between 40 to 50%. Anything more than 50 to 60% gets a little bit disappointing after Fantastic Four being the big hope for Marvel in the future and the direction of the new huge Marvel universe. 66% ain't a good sign for them.
Yeah, and not only that, but it's like continuing to drop by like 60% every weekend over weekend. You know, when you open at $100 million, a 60% drop is not the worst thing ever, but the interest seemed to wane pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And though everyone says you should never make grand reads after just a single release of a film, it's hard to not look at this as another sign that the Marvel universe that once was a huge success is now just on a different trajectory. What else is on the docket for the box office, Max?
Well, we had Bad Guys 2 in its second weekend, a modestly budget family animated film, but it's not doing super good. We're at like 80 million cumulatively for that right now. And after Lilo and Stitch and after How to Train Your Dragon being enormous this summer, is this bad news? Is this movie going to limp along to a profit? Any thoughts around this, Dave? Like, what do you think's going on with Bad Guys 2?
I'm at a loss a bit. I think we talked at length on the last episode about the success of How to Train Your Dragon and Lilo and Stitch.
Yeah.
Two runaway successes that were remakes of earlier titles. But prior to that, we talked about the debacle that was Snow White. Prior to that, we talked about the success of Minecraft. All these are family films that have had wildly different successes. To be honest, I was really surprised that Bad Guys even got a sequel. I thought the first one kind of came and went. I did relook at the box office for the initial one, and it looked like it made some money. But similar to kind of my Superman take, did it make enough money to warrant more? I don't know.
It also raises the question, like, maybe it's super popular on streaming. Maybe there's toys. We just don't know enough about the ancillary markets these days to be able to say. My thought on it was, after Lilo and How to Train Your Dragon, maybe no parents want to go to the movie theater and drop $100 on tickets, snacks, parking, and all that other stuff. They're like, we did that twice already this summer. We're not going to do Smurfs. We're not going to do Bad Guys. Like, we'll watch those at home, whatever.
Yeah, great take. I think one other just to add is that Netflix has been in the trades lately because of an unexpected family film hit, which is an animated film called K-Pop Demon Hunters.
Oh, yeah.
And if you need the log line from K-Pop Demon Hunters, read the title K-pop demon hunter. The movie is apparently is a runaway success. It's got legitimately good K-pop music to it, and I think it's charting on Spotify right now. And it's supposed to be a lovely story about a team that gets together to fight a bad source. Probably read Bad Guys too, so a very similar in theme. So maybe parents were just like, I got a great version that just came out this weekend at home. That's a broad family
Or
film for
maybe
my
kids
kids.
are just singing those songs over and over again. They're like, I don't need to go see Bad Guys too. I'm good. I got these K-pop songs.
Agreed. And the songs are catchy.
How about Weapons, Dave? That was
Dude, we are back.
Yeah.
We are back. Weapons was unbelievable. So excited about it. It was a horror movie marketed as kind of a thriller to try to get a broader audience in. The
the
movie,
marketing was great. It was all mystery.
it was
What
great.
is this? What happened? And I'm like, I don't know. I want to find out though.
Max, we might have to do an episode on this in the future because it really was astounding. Made $42 million at the weekend box office, which for a horror movie is very high. I will tell you, I got my wife and sister-in-law, who do not like horror movies, to come with me. I maybe fibbed a little bit about what the log line of the film actually was.
Good job. Like a true marketer, professional marketer.
It's like I do it for a living.
Yeah.
But got them got their butts in the seats, and people were laughing, cheering, horrified, scared, screaming. Awesome. It was a real awesome time at the movies. Warner Brothers has had an amazing run of films, which included Sinners, which we talked about in our second episode that Max and I loved.
2 big original hits in the year.
It's incredible. It's astounding. Warner Brothers, in order to get the rights to this movie from the filmmaker, they overpaid. When they did that, everyone looked at it like, this is a bit of a risk for Warner Brothers. And of course, this results, $42 million in the first weekend, $70 million worldwide, many more millions of dollars to come. It proves that it's a success. And this is very similar to the Sinners experience, which was released a couple months ago. Warner Brothers overpaid for a original horror title. Everyone was concerned about how risky it was, and it hit. So kudos to Warner Brothers.
What we said in our first episode, they were studio executives who invested a lot of money in filmmakers that they thought would make something really interesting, and so exciting that it paid off, and so interesting that it was, both of them were horror movies. I mean, not totally interesting because that's where most of original movies are made these days, but it's pretty cool if you are a horror person, a horror fan, or a horror filmmaker, which I know a few, and they're pretty jazzed overall about how things are going right now.
Yeah, man, I'm ear to ear happy that this movie really worked.
And I think overall it kind of proves that like audiences are still interested in original, interesting ideas, which makes me smile. So I'm happy about that. Now, a movie that is not original that also had some big success this weekend was Freakier Friday, a sequel to a movie that came out 20 years ago. Brought back the original cast of Lindsay Lohan and Jamie Lee Curtis. They had a $44 million worldwide weekend.
Yeah,
$42 million budget.
Are you a big Freaky Friday man, Max?
Well, I haven't seen it. I'm not going to see this one. But what do you like? Is this good news for comedies, or is this just nostalgia? What do you think, Dave?
You know what? I think this is a fun weekend to observe. Max and I were children of the 90s, and this box office weekend was a bit of a throwback to that time. You had an animated film like Bad Guys coming out. You had a general audience, but a PG type movie to get the whole family together, like a Freakier Friday. You had a horror movie with like broader stakes to it. I think it was just excited to see a wide array of different types of movies and people going to it. And then superhero movies, like maybe not doing quite as well as we expected, though they're still gonna make money. I think if anything, I'm happy that audience goers are not only going to superhero movies nowadays. And this is a great weekend to show them.
Well said. I'm going to end on the box office on one small word about Materialists, which we've brought up a few times. But A24, which released the film, had a few misses this year. Materialists is somehow at $62 million worldwide on like just under a $20 million budget. Do you think A24, which is kind of known more for like horror and weird movies, do you think it might drift to romance, maybe romantic comedies?
That's a great question, Max. I hope so. I think A24 is in an interesting point overall as a studio. They have a really strong brand of, if you're a moviegoer and you see A24 logo, it does represent a sign of trust and taste. Whereas, like, I don't know if I would say that for the other quote unquote major studios. Just because it's released by Universal doesn't necessarily guarantee it's good. There's a good chance that it is, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee it. Shots fired on Universal. Sorry, buds.
Shots fired on Marvel too. I mean,
Yeah.
we said it without saying it a few minutes ago. Marvel will still be able to open a movie, but will people care about it in the long run?
Totally. But A24 used to really represent supporting filmmakers. So I think if you asked me 5 years ago, Max, about A24, I would say they would just keep making movies with this director Celine Song until she's done doing it.
Mm.
Nowadays, I do think they are operating a little bit more like a small studio where they are making genre choices and genre plays. But yeah, I hope that they continue to make romance movies. Max, what's happened outside of just the box office? I know we want to get to Naked Gun. Before we do, anything else that's important to mention?
Yeah, like, so even there's always interesting stuff going on. I know that Highest to Lowest, which is the new Spike Lee Denzel Washington movie, is coming out this weekend. And I've been talking to my friends who are, movie nerds like you and me, and they're like, "Oh, I thought that was just going straight to Apple streaming." And it's not. It's going to be in theaters for like 3 or 4 weeks beforehand. And nobody seems to know that that's happening, which is crazy because even if you take Spike Lee out of the equation, it's fucking Denzel Washington, one of the most beloved movie stars of all time still. So the fact that it's getting almost no marketing for what seems like a fairly straightforward concept, like not a super controversial. Spike Lee's made some, controversial films, according to some people. And this is not that. This is like a dude has his son kidnapped and he's trying to get him back. That's a thrillery type of concept, the exact kind of movie that people have shown up to see Denzel Washington do in the past. So there's a lot of talk on Le Internet that this is, Spike Lee's gotten the raw end of a deal a lot because he's made controversial films that deal with race. And are people just not backing him? And why aren't they backing him? It is a big question because also, like, he had a movie not too long ago that was a big hit. So it's not like he can't do commercial movies. And not only that, but you got Jeffrey Wright in this, Academy Award nominee. You also
Love
have
him.
ASAP Rocky and Ice Spice, who are very popular among the youths.
Youth.
There's stuff to market here. It shouldn't be that difficult. And it's an Apple film, and Apple has tons of money. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
I totally agree. It's definitely a head scratcher. There are questions about is it more nefarious? My initial reaction, and maybe I'm more willing to give everyone the benefit of the doubt. Maybe I'm a little bit too optimistic at times, you might say, Max, but I don't think Apple would ever intentionally do something this negligent, if we would want to use that word. Maybe it is just like a crime of like stupidity and omission. But to your point, Max, we talk about movies all the time, and on this podcast we've said things like what packages we would love to see in the movies, and an interesting auteur filmmaker mixed with a talented big movie star with genre type themes.
Right.
This isn't some like dramatic tone poem that doesn't have a plot. This is a movie that's going to be set in New York City. There's a kidnapping, and you got one of the most charismatic actors of all time at the center of it, looking handsome, saying funny things, and you have one of the most legendary filmmakers of all time. This should be a no-brainer for any studio executive. I think my only thing to mention and bring up is Apple is coming off this massive success that was the F1 movie, and that was led by Brad Pitt. And Max is going to say, was it a massive success?
Was it a massive success? I mean, again, in ticket sales, absolutely. Financially, well, if they actually spent $300 million before marketing, it's impossible for it to be a financial success. But it depends on how you define that, right? So I think to your point earlier where you're saying, I don't think Apple would intentionally do this. That's kind of what's nefarious about it. They spent all this money and all this time promoting F1, a movie that they were never going to make money off of, and just didn't pay any attention to the other filmmakers on their brand. And when you don't pay attention to other filmmakers, especially when you're like looking at Denzel Washington and Spike Lee, the negligence alone is kind of nefarious. I think Spike's whole career, the more I learn about it and the more movies of his I see, he continues to get the raw end of the deal, and he's viewed a certain way by a lot of people in this business even. as, dude, I don't know. I don't even know. It's because you can't call him unmarketable. You can't call him unsuccessful. You can't call him untalented. You
Yeah,
can't
and
call him unappealing. I don't even know. Like, he's just like, people just don't want to get behind his movies.
he even recently had award success with a movie like Black Klansman not
Yeah.
that long ago. I will
And
counter
financial
that.
success
Yeah.
with that movie. It was a big movie.
Big movie. I will counter that though with a theory, and not that I even totally believe in. But typically, the amount of money it takes to produce a movie that will often reflect the amount that they will agree to market the movie.
For
If you're looking at a movie like F1, costs, let's just ballpark it and be somewhat vague about it, but say $300 million, incredibly expensive movie. That's an easy justification for people at Apple and then people at Warner Brothers who marketed it to say, like, we need $100 million to
yeah,
market it.
right.
Whereas Highs to Lows, totally guessing again, but probably that movie costs $70 million. It's a very New York movie,
Yeah.
which is different from the global appeal of F1. And I can see people in the Apple marketing offices being like, well, we should give this movie less marketing budget.
Yeah, but like $0?
That is assuming a lot of not nefarious things and a lot of like stupid conversations. I'm still really excited to see Highest to Lowest. I think it's only in theaters for 2 weeks before it goes to streaming, which is also a different model that they did from F. And one last note to mention is that there's a new player in town, one of the most historic, famous studios in the business, been around for over 100 years, did movies like The Godfather and a bajillion more classics, just got new ownership. And that
Yes,
might seem,
crazy.
it's nuts. It's been taken over by a person named David Ellison, who is a young movie executive. He has headed this company called Skydance, which has released some of the Mission Possible films, some other larger action
Terminator movies,
franchises.
yeah.
Yeah. And they just bought out the previous owners, which was the Redstone family, who owned the studio for about 31 years. I think in general, around town, we are happy that one, Paramount didn't fold, didn't go away, because that would be
Mhm.
one fewer studio to put out movies. And two, that this is being headed by a relatively young studio executive who has ambitions. And I think it's an interesting chapter, Max, because this is a studio executive that is aware of the Netflix phenomenon and the rise in streaming, but also loves movies in theaters. So it'll be interesting to see someone like this take the helm that is got youth and ambition and is willing to try new things.
And I'm not exactly sure what the corporate structure of Paramount is in this transition, but I feel like maybe we're going to see behavior very different from the Redstone family, who had a very particular reputation. So this passing on to someone who's, I think, literally buying it just because he likes movies is a very different thing than a corporate conglomerate buying it because they see it as a blah 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 type of business. Exciting, possibly. We'll see how it goes.
Agreed. And speaking of Paramount, let's get to the main event. We're going to be talking about Naked Gun. Give us the log line in 10 words or less.
I'm not super confident in this one, but here it is. Frank Drebin solves crimes and commits crimes for justice.
That's good. I think that hits. Mine is always a little bit more of a weird haiku. It's LA cops doing bad things. Society surprisingly okay with it. I think mine reads more like a newspaper headline, a poorly done newspaper headline.
Man. Yeah, I think you take the cake on that one. I'm giving that one to you.
Okay, yeah, the actual summary. So Frank Drebin, as Max mentioned, just an old school hardened cop from LA, is tasked with investigating a bank robbery and the murder of a beautiful woman's brother. Both cases, surprise, surprise, end up being the same case, as it appears an evil tech billionaire is behind both of it.
Yeah, and it's a comedy's comedy. Although it does have a very coherent and well-structured plot, which I super appreciated, it's mostly there to just be a land of 1,000 jokes. It was written by Akiva Schaffer, who we know from Lonely Island and Saturday Night Live. He teamed up with Dan Greger and Dan Mand, who worked on Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, How I Met Your Mother, this very similarly Land of 1,000 Jokes Adult Swim show called NTSF SDSUV, which was also a spoof on Cop Show. It was really great. Y'all should check it out. And I think they recently did the Chippendale movie, which I believe Lonely Island produced, They had some pretty good success there. We also have some writing from producer Seth MacFarlane from Family Guy, and a guy named Alex Sulkin, who also worked on Family Guy and the Ted movies with Seth MacFarlane. Akiva directed the movie. He also directed Popstar, some of the TV show I Think You Should Leave, and a lot of the Lonely Island music videos. So a very accomplished comedy director. So just like an all-star team of comedy writer and producers.
And then I'll jump in, Max. I was so excited that Liam Neeson took the helm as Frank Drebin,
Yeah.
the main character on this. Over the last 10 or 15 years, Neeson has gotten into this space of being like angry, grizzled, over 40s guy with a gun.
Yeah.
And I think that's most of what a younger generation would know him as. Frankly, most people don't realize that back in the day, he was in this movie Love Actually, where he played a very sad and mushy and sentimental father. But
yeah, he was known as the actor's actor, premier drama actor, Oscar Beatty type of actor. And then he did Taken, and he was known as your dad who kills people.
yeah, and good on him. And like, I guess every actor would hope for this. He really found a niche about 15 years ago where Taken happened, and then agents were happy to send him a script. And frankly, he was happy to oblige. He said yes to a lot of these movies that were derivative. But then because of that,
and some awesome ones like The Gray. The Gray is an awesome movie.
The Gray is fantastic. A Walk Amongst the Tombstones. I love that one as well. There were some really good versions of it, but like any genre or specific type of movie, if you see too much of it, the audience gets used to it and maybe less inspired by it. So what a genius stroke to cast him.
It was a good way to update the idea of the movie and the franchise, because the lead actor was parodying himself instead of him trying to play what Leslie Nielsen did. He knows the thing he's making fun of intimately. And yeah, he showed up and did the movie and was super funny doing it.
Pam Anderson, who's a very important person in my life growing up in the 90s, I will leave it at that, plays the femme fatale and a great foil to Liam Neeson. And then Danny Houston is the villain. Paul Walter Hauser is Liam's sidekick buddy. Appearances by Busta Rhymes, Dave Bautista, Cody Rhodes. It's crazy.
Yeah, a lot of fun stuff in the cast for sure. And everybody really showing up and knowing the assignment and crushing it.
Loved it. Before we get further into the movie, Max, what did you see in the marketing for it?
So I saw a trailer, which was essentially most of the opening scene and then the big O.J. Simpson joke. I saw it in theaters, big laugh. People really loved it. I saw some posters here and there. I thought the poster was really great. It's Liam standing next to Pam Anderson, and he's got his arm around her and a gun in one hand. But then there are all sorts of other arms, like holding all the places where you could have put an arm on someone.
They kind of look like a Photoshop mistake.
Yes, like they couldn't decide which arms they wanted to keep, so they kept them all. What did you see?
I saw the same teaser that you did, which was a great opening. And the posters in Los Angeles, a ton of outdoor billboards, which is frankly pretty rare. We haven't seen billboards about an adult comedy in a very long time. Yeah. And similar to the poster, Max, that you described about it kind of being a Photoshop edit and being very like playful, even in one still image, the outdoor billboards did the same thing. They had some sort of copy line that purposely had an error to it that made a joke, or some very funny visual of Liam Neeson doing a complete split, which was also, I think, part of the poster. And then there was also on social media, I saw a great spoof video. It wasn't a teaser. It wasn't a trailer. It was a satire of the commercials and infomercials that I'm sure we have all seen, which is...
Oh my God, I did see that. I didn't see it until after the movie came out, though.
The infomercials that ask the audience to donate $1 a day to either support a tribe in a foreign country in that very sincere, earnest tone. There were lots of slow fade ups and fade downs with sad imagery, but the crux of it was Liam Neeson talking to camera saying, every minute, one comedy dies in theaters. And the whole bit was no one has seen a comedy movie in theaters in forever. And there were clips of all these movies that I know Max and I have grown up with, a lot of other people have grown up with. There were flashes of Anchorman or Role Models or
was Austin Powers in there too?
Austin Powers was in there. I think the original Mean Girls was in there. So there were all these little clips to remind the audience of like, hey, remember you used to laugh in theaters? And the end bit being Liam very painfully earnestly requesting support comedy by buying one ticket to Naked Gun.
For the price
Um,
of one ticket, you can
for the
support. Yeah, it's so good.
Max, you nailed the line. It was for the
Yeah.
price of one ticket. So I think Paramount did a great job to create a moment around not just this movie, but to claim like, hey man, when was the last time you laughed in a theater? You should check this out. And it worked on me.
I feel like there's been a couple of those recently where I'm like, I think movie studios are finally figuring out how to market movies in this day and age, and I hope that's just good news all across the board.
I hope so.
But yeah, so it did pay off. Like the box office performance is good. The movie comes in at about a $42 million budget, which is definitely high for a comedy, but not crazy high. And not high considering that this is a movie that's making fun of action movies. So there are a lot of action sequences in it. There are a lot of locations, a lot of characters, stuff like that. The opening weekend, it had a $17 million domestic. Again, that's good. Not amazing, though. It pulled in an additional $10 million overseas, so that's very strong. In the subsequent weeks, it dropped by about 50%. So again, as expected, nothing crazy, nothing, not bad, not good.
Yep.
But it did do $13 more million overseas, which I thought was actually pretty great. So the total we're sitting at is $56 million. I think it'll have a pretty good run for the next couple of weeks. Nothing like it is going to be out there. And I think the word of mouth is pretty good because if you do the math, we're looking at about 2 or 3 million people that have gone to go see this movie. And they're all pretty much liking it. Critically, it's been very positive. We got about 56,000 letterbox reviews, and we're about like 70% approval rating, or so,
That's great. And I think the Rotten Tomatoes score was even higher than the Letterboxd.
Yeah, well, right, yeah, they just do things a little bit differently. Like,
Yep.
here's my weird take on the letterbox response to Naked Gun, right? So I follow certain people on it. I check reviews here and there, and it's like every time I opened up a Naked Gun review, it would be like 3.5 stars, which is like good. It's not great, but they'd be like, "Oh my god, I laughed from beginning to end, had so much fun, blah blah blah." 3.5 stars. I was like, okay, but then I'd open up a Fantastic Four review, and they'd be like, "This movie was boring, 4 stars." And I'm just like, okay, it means what it means, but generally people are really, really liking the movie. So, Dave, this is kind of a big test for summer comedies. Did it pass?
I think it did good enough. And I hate to be sounding so redundant, but similar to my Superman notes, is this good enough to claim that all comedies are back in theaters? For a movie on its own and based on the box office numbers that Max just recited, yes, this is a success. I think any broader statements about the future of the industry, you should be hesitant to make claims on. But maybe that's what we get into when we get into our spoiler-filled section.
Yeah, so let's start with spoilers. We're going to talk about the movie, things that happened in the movie, and how we felt about it. Dave, obviously you have positive feelings about the movie. What's like your deep dive here?
Yeah. Gosh, I don't know if I don't know if my deep dive is that much deeper. And maybe I think that's justified based on the movie. The movie was packaged and delivered to be perfectly forgettable. And it was so enjoyable. I really enjoyed it. I saw it with my father. Max, I think you did as well.
I did as well, yeah.
Which is a great nod to an older type of movie that I'm sure we shared with our fathers when we were younger.
Yeah, I think my dad showed me the original Naked Guns. It wasn't, not that it did the numbers that Barbie did, but I remember when Barbie came out, my dad was saying it was crazy because little girls would show up with their moms and their grandmothers. And
that's great.
Well, you guys had Barbie, but we had Naked Guns.
Which maybe shows our maturity level, Max.
Yeah, I think so.
But yes, I really enjoyed Liam Neeson. He understood the assignment. He understood the play on his own persona. Pamela Anderson, I was so surprised at how funny she was.
I also just so happy for her because like being a sex symbol from the 90s was tough and it took a toll on her. And there's, whole TV shows about that. But to see her have the resurgence that she's having and to come out and just like have a ton of fun.
Yeah.
It was cool to see that.
It was very cool. And the gags are mixed to being the silliest to there is the longer bit that's almost a music video in the middle. I know we're in the spoiler section, but I'm hesitant to name it, Max, because I feel like you might want to talk more about it.
I actually don't have a lot to say about the Magical Snowman section. It was, I think, a nod to a thing that happened in the original Naked Gun, which was like a montage of Priscilla Presley and Leslie Nielsen falling in love, and that they kind of did the same thing here, but they just got super weird with it. I saw the movie There were only about 10 people in the theater, which I was
Hmm.
like a little bummed out about. I should have gone to see a later showing, but my dad's old and doesn't want to go to later showings anymore.
Totally get it.
And there were laughs in it, but I'm wondering if I saw it with a bigger crowd and maybe a younger crowd, there would have been more laughs. It was not my favorite part of the film. I'll say that.
What was your favorite part, Max?
Oh God, I love the chili dog bit. I actually like the stuff that was like less actiony. I love the coffee cup bits. I loved him serving all the underage kids beer because he was trying to focus on something else. Her Pamela Anderson doing the jazz scat singing, I thought was really fucking good.
Yeah, I thought
Yeah.
Danny Houston also did
Danny
I think a
Houston
great
fucking
job
great.
as a villain. He also similar is in very serious roles often. So I think
Yeah,
even playing with his own persona a bit about how the same way Liam plays with his heroic persona, I think
yeah.
was really really fun.
I also thought all the police commentary in it was very funny and like kind of well balanced. It wasn't like too heavy handed at all, but it was also like, hey man, we're not going to ignore that there's been a conversation about policing in this country for the past 10 years, and
and
we're not
it's
going back to that the way it
Yeah,
was.
totally agree. I think it mentioned it, but it was trying to be a movie that did not get overtly political or go either way. But I
Yeah.
think it was trying to be smart, um,
Yeah.
as dumb as the movie is.
Yeah. Which it's just, now that you say that, it was so refreshing to feel like a movie respected me as a viewer, where like we're going to do the dumbest shit possible, but it's clearly a lot of thought and a lot of care has been put into every phase of it. And we're going to give you as many jokes as you possibly can because you bought a ticket for this. And there's going to be stuff that you see. There's going to be stuff that they say, and just all sorts of. I think my favorite joke in the whole movie was the windshield coming back onto the car. It was like a
With
nod to a very old style of comedy dating all the way back to Buster Keaton, but it was almost a commentary on it because we've never seen the windshield come back onto the car. Um, yeah, man, I thought that was super solid.
Yeah, I think for me, the movie really delivered what I wanted it to as a moviegoer. In the moment, sitting with my dad, my theater was a little bit more packed than yours, Max, but it was by no means full. And there was a good amount of laughter. I will say, I think my dad and I had the loudest laughter. Maybe that's just 'cause we have annoying laughs. I don't
I
know.
was I was definitely the only person laughing very loudly at certain parts of that film,
Yeah,
but there were also other parts of the film where other people was laughing and I wasn't, and I thought that was really special. I
yeah,
thought that was really special.
yeah.
I will say, like, it was very rewarding to laugh that much in a movie. But I was like, man, it's been a while. But then I remembered friendship made me laugh from the very beginning to the very end in a much different way than this movie did.
Yeah,
So I
I
don't know.
agree, and that I think that brand of humor, by those creators, Tim Robinson being the star and producer of it, that brand of humor is just very different and very modern. Where this was a throwback, and I appreciated both, but in very different ways.
So because this was a movie that was really important to us as kids, and the original Naked Gun, one of the most beloved American comedies of all time. Before we talk about the relative success of the film, that's not necessarily financial, I kind of want to talk about the impact of the original Naked Gun movie. So
Ooh,
the original Naked Gun, here's a little bit of history. I'll cruise through it. It was written and directed by these guys, the Zucker brothers. They were very, very famous for this type of comedy, the spoof genre, which is a style of comedy that directly mirrors the plot and characters of like a very serious film, but it fills it with absolutely absurd jokes, physical comedy, sight gags, and stuff. Nothing is safe. Everything is made fun of, but it's not like mean spirited. It's just absurd. There's generally no thesis to the film, or if there is, it's like very light, and it takes everything to the nth degree. And it's very, very famous for getting serious character actors, like say a Liam Neeson or a Danny Houston
oh,
or a Leslie Nielsen, to deliver these really zany jokes in the same way that they would as if they were in a serious film. So it really takes to heart the comedy as a serious business thing. It's very deadpan, and that's what makes it so fun. They did this most famously in Airplane, which is where they first worked with Leslie Nielsen. That was a comedy movie that got released that was massive, 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 massive.
when did it get released, Max?
I think it was 1979 or 1980.
Wow. Okay, laying down the blueprint just before Max, you and I were even born.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was also, it's an old school style of comedy. It almost dates back to like vaudeville and Buster Keaton. After Airplane, the Zucker brothers were like, man, we really want to do one of these movies, but we want to make it like a cop movie, like all these police procedurals on TV. Think Law and Order, Crime of the Week type of stuff. We still have these shows. They're very, very successful. So they went to Paramount Pictures and they're like, hey, we want to do this. And Michael Eisner, who was running it at the time, he was like, you guys don't really have a plot, but I'll give you like a 6-episode green light for a TV show.
Oh.
And that's when they made this show called Police Squad. And it got canceled really fast. Really fast. But for years after, it gained a strong cult following, and the Zucker brothers didn't forget about it. So they had a couple other successful movies in the 80s, and then they're like, let's try and give this police thing a shot. So they wrote the script for The Naked Gun, and the full title of the movie is The Naked Gun from the Files of Police Squad, because they cast all the same people who were in the TV show, which included Leslie Nielsen. It comes out in 1988. It's a massive success, considered one of the all-time great comedies. And I'm going to read you some numbers, Dave. So, for one, Dave, if you were to release a spoof comedy, what month out of the year would you choose to do it?
I would say a summer release. I would say give it a June date.
Right. So for us, the big comedies that came out in the year were summer comedies.
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about how the movie business used to be, we say we missed the summer comedy. The Naked Gun came out on December 2nd. It's a holiday movie. It's a Christmas movie. It grossed domestically about $78 million. It only went in 2,000 theaters.
Whoa.
Which is weird because today the new Naked Gun came out in 3,400.
Yeah.
But there were 100 million less people living in the United States back then. Mm-hmm. Now, the $78 million adjusted for inflation in 2025, without looking it up, Dave, what would you guess is that gross?
You're asking me to do maths? This isn't even a
just guess.
question.
First number. Think about it. First thing that comes to your head.
I'm going to say 100, 105.
It's $202 million domestically.
Oh my gosh.
So right now, worldwide, The Naked Gun 2025 is at $56 million, with a lot more people on planet Earth. That is domestically for the original about 12.5 to 18 million tickets sold. I got really nerdy with the numbers here. If you considered that every ticket sold was to a person who didn't see the movie twice in theaters, which, knowing this movie and its fan base, definitely not the case. Mm-hmm. About 5 to 7.5% of the American public saw The Naked Gun in theaters.
Whoa.
And right now we're at like 0.7%. The average movie ticket price back then was somewhere between $3.99 and $4.10. Do you know what that is in $2025?
I'm going to say it was $8.
It's $10.50.
Okay.
I have one more fun statistic here that I want to bring up. In 1988, I'm going to read you the top 11 movies.
Okay.
Tell me how many are comedies. Number 1 at the box office, Who Framed Roger Rabbit? Coming to America, Good Morning Vietnam.
Banger.
Big. Crocodile Dundee 2. 3 Men and a Baby. Die Hard. Moonstruck. Cocktail. Beetlejuice, and I went to 11 because the number 11 was A Fish Called Wanda.
Oh my gosh, dude. That's like...
How many of those are comedies?
I think 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Moonstruck or Cocktail, but like...
What? We used to be a country. What happened?
So, as a thought experiment, when we're talking about whether or not the new Naked Gun is successful, like we said, financially, it'll probably eke out something successful. But as far as the cultural zeitgeist goes, how do you measure its success?
Well, you just depressed me with that litany of information that was well-researched. But Max, after that case, it is even harder to say what success this movie is. Right. Now, I think both Paramount and the industry that surrounds us is banking on the fact most people will not do the same research that you just did. Most even studio people won't do the same research that you did. And I think everyone's narrative in town hopes to be, hey, The Naked Gun was a success, so let's start greenlighting more comedies in theaters. And like, I don't think you or I want to contradict that, but I think the data that you just pulled out surely sees what a muted success this was in comparison.
Well, to be fair, I think if you pulled that data out for just about any film, like the Roger Rabbit doing in 1988, like $156 million, in today's numbers is fucking insane, especially when you consider that it's 100 million fewer people in the United States. If we did the math on how many people bought a ticket to Superman, say,
Mm-hmm.
domestically, and you compare that to the original Superman, to other action films from back then, it's probably not even close. So we have to grade a little bit on the curve here, right?
Absolutely. This is in the backdrop of our entire podcast, which is the state of media in 1980, 1988 versus 2025. And the amount of channels that were available on television in 1988
Mm-hmm.
was what, five?
Not a lot.
Yeah. No one had content in their pockets. And even the content on those five channels were the sturdy multicam comedy, which is just different from the type of comedy that you get from The Naked Gun, which has set pieces.
Yeah,
Who Framed Roger Rabbit was literally something no one had seen before,
yeah,
where people interacting with animated characters. So I think the backdrop of just the media landscape changing and the fact that we got $17 million worth of people to show up and see what was a pretty traditional comedic delivery system versus very different methods that are available now. That, I guess, is the me weighting the scale to the modern audience and hopefully say that let's take this as a win. Let's take
yeah.
this as a success. Yeah.
And I think we should. So here are my hot takes. I have two. One is that this movie made a few mistakes. And it's weird to say that because I wouldn't cast anybody else in this film than who was cast. But I think it could have used some younger people in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, your two leads are Liam Neeson, Pamela Anderson. They're the people who are on the poster. And to people younger than 35, that doesn't mean that much. You know, if we're trying to change the habits of the American moviegoer, particularly younger people, and we want them to go see comedies, then like this was not the way to do that.
Mm-hmm.
My other hot take is this movie, I think, is going to be found on streaming, hopefully by a lot of younger people. And I think that the modest success of this film could open the door for other comedies like this to be made. Like this is almost like a reminder, not only that this type of comedy can exist, but that we like it and that it can be successful. I think people will find this on streaming. They'll see clips of it. They'll see memes of it. And because the jokes are going to work for anybody at any age. So I think my hot take is not a huge cultural success, but it's going to have cultural implications.
Yeah. I have a lukewarm take and then
Mm-hmm.
a hot take.
Mm-hmm.
My lukewarm take is I hope this opens the door for the comedies of the aughts that you and I are frankly more familiar with, which aren't the joke-a minutes, but more the Apatow-esque, James L. Brooks-esque. We have some character development and then we have humor. But that is not even really a take. That's just more of a lament from a more recent time.
Yeah, that sounds really more like a eulogy, Dave. Because this movie is not. I don't think this is the movie that's going to open the doors for that.
Max, you are right where it probably won't, but I think that is what we have seen. I think in The Town, which is like this is a very specific comedy movie that has a heritage that you just laid out from the 1980s. Yet this poor movie has so many things on its back, which is like, will it bring all comedies back? And of
Yeah.
course, my lukewarm take of just like, will it bring a 40-year-old virgin type movie back?
Well, I think it could bring a movie like that or a
Yeah.
movie like Anchorman back, but I don't think it's going to bring.
Broadcast news isn't coming back. Yes.
I think a broadcast news could work, but it's not going to be because of The Naked Gun came out.
Yes.
Well, what's the hot take?
My hot take is this experience at the theaters pales in comparison to the Weapons experience in the theaters. And the Weapons is marketed as a mystery thriller whodunit with horror undertones. It also, similar to how I described Eddington, also had moments of real levity and humor. And the theater I was in reminded me of the 90s comedies that I think you and I grew up with. Whereas a movie like American Pie was a full theater
Oh, yeah.
and he's putting his thing in a pie. And it was a mixture of of laughter, but also raucous, disgusting reaction. I think movies like Something About Mary, where Cameron Diaz has semen on her ear,
Yep.
and there is both laughter but revulsion. I was so surprised to see one weekend Naked Gun with my father and gave some real good laughs, some real good chuckles, and a positive experience. And then cut to a week or two later, and this movie going in expecting horror and getting horror, but
Mhm.
seeing a real visceral, raucous reaction that was a mixture of horror but some real laughter.
I
Um,
mean, that's how I
I
felt about The Substance. Did you see The Substance?
Another great example, which was a horror movie, but also a satire.
Huge satire with very funny moments.
Weapons was a special movie experience, and it made me sad for a movie like Naked Gun.
Right.
So I'm so happy that this worked, but I think my take was, I hate to say this, if you're listening to this podcast and can only see one movie at the box office, I'd probably send my friend to see Weapons.
Dang, haven't seen Weapons yet because it's
Uh,
not in my small town in Idaho right now, which I forgot is a thing living in LA for so long. So, you will not be disappointed going to see Naked Gun. I could promise that for almost anybody living in the United States. But Weapons sounds exciting. So, I guess there's only one thing left to say.
See you at the movies.
See you at the movies.